This is Danny Flexen and Joe Lee. Welcome you to the latest edition of Boxed In, where we take a particular set of fighters and put them in their place. It's fair to say, Joe, how you doing?
Yeah, all good today. Just want fight camp to kick off, to be honest, because I'm sick of the weekends without boxing. Obviously, we've had Frank Warren's first show, and it's slowly getting back underway.
I think there's another 2 Warren shows before fight camp actually kicks off, so your
Yeah,
boxing thirst will be sated before too long.
yeah, of course.
Um, but we're going to move on. We did Fight Camp 1 last week and put all those fighters where they belonged, and now we're going to do the same thing with Fight Camp Week 2. And I am going to kick off with... Who should I kick off with? I think I'm going to kick off with Chris Billam-Smith, the Commonwealth Cruiserweight Champion. He is an interesting one because he's 29 and he seems a lot younger because he's still quite early into his career. I think he stayed amateur for quite a long time. And he, apart from a kind of medium type test against Robin Dupree, early in his career, he was fighting mostly journeymen and getting rid of a lot of them as well, which is impressive. He's obviously a big puncher. But then jumped straight from that sort of level of opposition, like I say, Robin Dupree aside, into a British title fight with Richard Riakporhe.
Yeah,
Was it a British title fight? Actually, no, it might not have been. Maybe WBA International, actually, before Riakporhe won the title. But either way, jumped straight in at the deep end, if you like, and pushed him hard all the way. And it was a debatable decision. He came out on the wrong end of it, as it turned out. But then fought against Craig Glover for the Commonwealth title in his next fight. Exciting fight, boxed smartly, used his power at the right times, and impressively got Glover out of there. Thought he looked great in that fight. And it's an intriguing one with Billam-Smith because although he is 29, as I pointed out, he's still quite early in his career. He was jumped in the deep end maybe a fight or two too early. There maybe should have been more of a curve in terms of his progression. But he now finds himself training under Shane McGuigan, one of the best
yeah,
trainers in the country, getting sparring with Lawrence Okolie, who is European champion, probably soon to be world champion at the same weight, and also getting to train alongside the likes of Luke Campbell and Anthony Fowler. Couldn't really be in a better place to progress. And I was worried about him when George Groves retired because he got the benefit of so many sparring rounds with Groves that must have brought him on immensely.
yeah,
But he's been replaced by arguably an even better sparring partner for Billam-Smith. Not a better fighter than Groves, but a better sparring partner because he's the same weight and high level in Lawrence Okolie. So, yeah, I don't think there's any doubt that Billam-Smith goes into that improvers category. And, yeah, I think he can win British title, European title, even perhaps, and perhaps challenge for a world title in the future.
yeah. Good first pick, and I'm gonna obviously go ahead to his opponent, who'll be across the ring to him, Nathan Thorley, who's, I guess you could say, it's fair to say, under the radar at the moment. He's undefeated, 14-0. Started off at light heavy, moved to cruiserweight, in which he's, in the interview I saw you did with him a few weeks back, he's saying he's big, he's rangy, obviously quite an awkward fighter. Not a lot of people do know a lot about him yet, but I think this is the fight where you're going to see the best of him. He's obviously more motivated than before because this is one of his biggest tests, I believe, the biggest test of his career. And I think this is going to be a great fight. I'm going to put him in improvers. Not to say that I think he beats Chris Billam-Smith, but I think even if he loses, he's got better fights ahead of him.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't expect him to beat Billam-Smith, but putting a good account of himself, it already improves his status from where he is right now.
Yeah, and I think especially on a show like this, if he loses and it's a tough loss, then obviously his stocks can go down. But if he puts on a good show for himself, then there's no reason why he can't become a bigger star and more of a household name.
So next for me is going to be the only man on BoxRec on the card who hasn't got an opponent thus far, and that's the exciting young talent, Hopey Price, or as I like to call him, Ivan, because we're tight like that. Just joking. I've never spoken
Boys.
to him, never met him. But his real name is Ivan Hope
Yeah,
Price. So,
yeah,
but yeah, Hopey, as people like to call him. He's only 20 years old, um, talented, tall for the weight as well. I think he's been flirting between super bantam and feather, but either way, I think he's 5'8.5", maybe even taller than that. And so he's tall for either weight, whichever one he settles at. He may still be growing at the age of 20, though, it's fair to say. So weight making could become more difficult if he chooses to try and hold the weight at one of those divisions. Training under Dave Caldwell, very impressive trainer. Everyone speaks highly of him. And everyone speaks highly of Hopey Price, anyone that sparred him, anyone that's seen him in action in the gym. He was an excellent amateur, junior amateur as well. Didn't really do much as a senior because he turned over so young.
Yeah.
As a junior, he won the Youth Olympics, which I think he might still be the only British fighter to do so. So just, yeah, a very, very exciting talent. Has to go in the hot prospect category because of his tender age and the fact he's only had 2 pro fights so far. But I expect him to make the most of the showcase he's getting in August.
Yeah, I'm going to follow you up there with another hot prospect, Aaqib Fiaz. Now, he's only 5-0, and he's going into an 8-rounder. His last fight was a 4-rounder. So obviously there's going to be different aspects of the fight that he hasn't experienced before. But in his last fight against Dean Jones, he got very comfortable very early, and obviously it's a 4-round fight, so you have to. But his combinations were great. He would land to the head and then find the opening to the body. Fantastic fighter. He's training with Carl Frampton, who rates him highly as well. And I can't wait to see what else he's going to bring to the division. So he'll go in the hot prospect, of course.
Yeah, and the guy he's fighting is down to me to categorise, Kane Baker. Good fighter, solid fighter. 13-6 record kind of says it all. The vast majority of his victories in that ledger have come over fighters with losing records, journeyman mostly. I think he's had 1 win over a fighter with a winning record, and that's when he won the Midlands area title, which is nothing to be sniffed at. And it'll be a good scalp on Fiaz's record should he come through. But I just think at this stage of his career, I think he's like, I can't remember his age now, 30, 31. Came from a white-collar background, started late in the traditional code. I just think he's been found wanting at a higher level previously than where he is now. I think even if he beats Fiaz, that doesn't necessarily put him much higher, just pipping an inexperienced prospect as good as highly touted as Fiaz is. I'm going to have to put him, regrettably, in the non-movers category.
Fair enough. That is a fight I think can only go one way, the way I see it anyway. Moving up the card, Anthony Fowler. Now, his last
I'm
fight
really
out...
intrigued by this one. I've got to say, before you go into it, I was so glad that you picked him when we talked about who we were going to take earlier, because I think that's a really, out of all of them, out of every fighter on the card, except for Jonas, because I've got a feeling I know where you're going to go with that one. But Anthony Fowler, non-mover or improver, it's a really, really tough call.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking hot prospect, but no. Obviously, his last fight was the weirdest fight. He was boxing. His opponent was playing dancing and ice. Like, he was just falling over all the time. Round 1 KO. It's hard to sort of judge him, I guess, on that performance. He's been looking more comfortable since the Fitzgerald loss. More flat-footed. He's looking more fluid. But, I can't see him beating Fitzgerald if they fight again. He's got a big fight ahead of it. I wanted to see him fight Ahara Davis because Ahara Davis is just an interesting guy. He's an interesting character.
He's been called worse.
I think Fowler wants to remain at 154. Maybe go down to a catch weight of 152, but I think 150 is probably too light for him. But I'm going to put him in the non-movers simply because I don't think he beats Fitzgerald the second time round. Even though they had a fantastic fight, I just think Fitzgerald's on a tear. He's obviously beat Cheeseman as well. And as much as Fowler would be so motivated for that fight because I know how much he wanted to win that first one, I just think he's going to stay at this level.
Ooh, take that, Anthony Fowler. I'm not going to say whether I agree with it or not because I don't have to because he wasn't on my list. It was a tough call, is what I will say, and fair play to you for making it. His opponent on the show is Adam Harper. English champion, former English champion, former Midlands champion. Decent enough fighter. It's a bit of a strange story with Adam Harper because he got a good win not too long ago when he won the English belt, and he was offered a British title fight by Matchroom against Ted Cheeseman, who was the champion then at Super Welter. And they found an anomaly on his brain scan, and he hadn't told Matchroom, which is why, no reason to, because Matchroom weren't his promoter, but that's why he got offered the fight. Matchroom were unaware that the board had said you've got a thing on your brain scan. He'd made the decision to retire, so didn't get the Cheeseman fight. Then looked into it more research, and it turned out that the anomaly on his brain scan was something that had been there for a number of years. So he got specialist reports and so on, got his license back, and now he's got this opportunity against Anthony Fowler. But I don't think it's going to turn out well for him. I think Fowler, against this level of opposition, has proved that he's capable. He beat the reigning English champion Harry Scarf last year. Harper's been around the block. He turned pro quite late. I think if he was going to do something beyond where he is now, he would have already done it. He did well going out to Australia to fight Michael Zarafa, and that was a couple of fights before Zarafa pushed Kell Brook, and obviously later upset Jeff Horn as well. So no disgrace there, but when he has stepped up, he hasn't got the job done. I don't think he'll get the job done against Fowler. And if we're saying, you're saying Fowler's a non-mover, I'm saying Fowler, if I was picking, would be a tough call one way or the other. I think if I'm saying Fowler definitely beats him, and I feel he does, you've got Harper also in the non-movers category.
Yeah, no, don't get me wrong. I think Fowler can still win some great fights in the rest of his career, but I just think in terms of from where he's at now, I don't think he grows enough to be in the improvers category.
You've made your call. It's fine. No one's disputing. I mean, people might dispute it in the comments, but I'm not disputing it right now.
And that's fair enough. I think now to go on to Natasha Jonas, obviously Olympic bronze medalist, southpaw. And she's such an exciting fighter. Obviously, she's had a loss that was very detrimental, and she could have had a world title fight before Terri Harper got it. But I think she's finally comfortable at where she's at in her career. She's got a nice straight left hand, 70% KO ratio. I don't think she's going to knock Terri Harper out. I don't think she's ever fought anyone like Terri Harper, other than I guess Katie Taylor, but that was 8 years ago. But I think she's got to go in the improvers only on the basis of if she wins, because she's 36 now, and if she loses, it's going to be tough to see her getting another title.
You're picking her, aren't you? You're picking her to win.
Yeah. Obviously, Michaela Mayer said, she wants to fight Terri Harper, wants the world title, and she sort of said Terri Harper's cheated away to the belt. So if Jonas loses, there's going to be other options for Harper, and I don't think she'll get another shot. And I think improvers on the basis she wins, which I think she will.
Presumably, when she said she cheated her way to the belt, she meant that she got a shot at the title
because of Eddie Hearn. Because she's with Eddie Hearn, yeah.
Yeah, she didn't actually cheat in the fight itself.
No.
But yeah, I know Michaela Mayer thought she'd agreed to fight for the belt with Ava Wallström, and it ended up, got pipped by Eddie Hearn. But that's Eddie Hearn, apples and pears. Best promoter in the game. You got to get up early to beat him, and Michaela Mayer obviously had a lie in. No disrespect to her. I have interviewed her. Hope to do so again. So I'll watch what I say. I disagree with you fundamentally on that pick. I've got to say.
I know you would.
I've got nothing against Natasha Jonas. She was an excellent amateur, albeit at a time where the competition for places in the GB squad to go to international tournaments was not as strong as it is now.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if she'd have gone to quite as many now with the current crop of talent we've got in Sheffield. I also think she hasn't adapted to the pro game brilliantly so far. She's outclassed girls she would be expected to outclass, but she did lose that fight to Vivian Obernauf.
Who Harper beat, in all fairness. But
yeah, I mean, so the form guide doesn't favour her going into that fight. But I think for this fight, she's been training hard. She'll raise her game. She'll go back to some of those fundamental amateur skills that she's got and try and outbox Harper, because she is probably the better technical boxer. But I don't see her beating Harper. And as you said, she's 36. If she loses this fight, where is there for her to go? A lot of people thought she might retire after Obernauf, and fair play to her for coming back. Shows a lot of character. But yeah, I wouldn't have put her in improvers. But I wouldn't pick her to win against Harper. So I understand you making that prediction. You kind of have to put her there.
Yeah.
So after that long-winded diatribe about a fighter that wasn't even on my list, we'll move to Terri Harper, the belter.
Yeah.
She's a belter, apparently. Cherry Cinnamon. I hope people still remember that song in a few years.
I do.
A lot of sense, but I can only admire her. She's still very young. Work ethic is just ridiculously good. Trains hard under Steffi Ball. Even during lockdown, was constantly out doing something, finding new ways of training despite lacking the usual gym environment. She's improved with every fight I've seen her have. I thought she dictated the pace incredibly well against a much more experienced Ava Wallström. She's just growing into it. And I think she's the sort of fighter who will grow with the title as well. Yeah. Age is on her side. All the guys she's going to be fighting might have better amateur pedigrees, including Jonas and Michaela Mayer. but they're not necessarily going to improve on the job in the same way she is. And it could even be an advantage for her that she's more, she's been indoctrinated in the professional game rather than the amateurs, because she might develop a more canny professional style at a younger age. You could argue that Jonas, for example, has maybe stayed amateur a bit too long, which we will see when this fight happens. But yeah, I think Harper is already one of the most improved fighters in Britain of either gender, and she will continue to improve in my view. So she goes in improvers.
Yeah, definitely. And from a British point of view, whoever wins this, I'm hoping in the next couple of years we see them fight Katie Taylor at the O2. Just I like those sort of nights there would just be amazing for British boxing, and particularly women's British boxing as well.
It's a good, I wouldn't say it's a great card overall, but it has got a good showcase of talent. And I think in Billam-Smith and Harper particularly, you've got two of the most improved fighters in the country.
I think that's a good way of putting it. It's more of a showcase of talent rather than, you know, fights that have great styles clashing together. I think that's a good way to put it, to be honest. Obviously, the pay-per-view card, which we talked about last week, also has similar aspects of that, but I think it is the best card. Obviously, that goes without saying. But yeah, this one's certainly more of a showcase of skill.
Great. Well, we want to know what you guys think as well, obviously. Who have we put in the wrong categories? Who do you agree with us about as well, and why? Let us know what you think. We'll come back to some of the comments. We'll be back next week with Boxed In, which somewhat predictably will be Fight Camp week 3. Yeah.
Let's get it.
And after that, perhaps week 4. Who knows? But yeah, so look forward to that, and we'll see you next time.